I have one on item 10.4.1, and it's due to my wife's employment with the Festival of the Sound. Give these to the clerk. One of those Rob's. Are you making a statement, or?
I guess I could.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I also have a conflict with 10.4.2 as I own a condominium in Beacon View.
Okay, thank you. May I have a mover and second for the minutes, please? Councillor McCann and Councillor who? Okay, Councillor Marshall. Okay. That the minutes of the regular council meeting of December 5th, 2017, and the special council meeting of December 12th, 2017 be approved as circulated. Any questions, discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Questions of staff? Councillor Marshall.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Brown. So we are less than a week from Christmas. Emily Street, where does this project look right now for the public's information?
Through your worship, I really look forward to these questions, especially this particular one. It hasn't gone well, and I've said that before, and I'm sounding like a broken record, so I apologize in advance. The pressure test for the water main failed on the weekend, so they had to regroup and find the leak. They finally found the leak apparently late this afternoon. They did a pressure test of the new main late this afternoon. It passed. So the next step is to superchlorinate the line, 24 hours, then do a sample, then another set of samples. So if you add everything up, it's likely that the residents on Emily Street will be still on their temporary water service for Christmas Day. Extremely disappointing, very disheartening. And I've spoken directly to the president of Fowler, voicing my displeasure and disappointment. She has promised that she is getting as much staff as she can there to make things happen as quickly as possible. There could be a whole group of people there in the next couple of days getting everything organized, but from what I've seen in the past, it's unlikely. And so I suspect that these temporary services will still be active over Christmas Day and likely Boxing Day. They are dressing up the road. They're still saying that they want to pave it. I'm not really interested in seeing a pavement go down that's going to end up getting ripped up again next year. So it's been a rough experience, and I'm disappointed, but they're still there and they're still working hard to get everything done. So I suspect that by the end of December, you'll have all the surfaces connected, the road open to some degree, whether it's gravel, whether it's asphalt, I don't know, but I suspect it'll be gravel. And then they'll have to be responsible for winter maintenance on that street, which we're still debating right now. So it's not a great news story, but they're still moving ahead.
Any further questions? Councillor Keith and then Councillor Horn.
Yes, I have two questions, and I'm sitting back because I understand my strong voice still resonates through this microphone, and that would be for Peter Brown. One is in reference to Emily Street and how basically things have not worked out well, it seems, with this project. And I was just wondering, for example, when you go on a trip or you use another service, for example, with TripAdvisor, people have stars of what sort of quality they felt subjectively afterwards as to whether they're satisfied. And I'm wondering, do municipalities, in reference to these kind of experiences, is there anything out there that subjectively people have, as a municipality, have the opportunity to use? That's my first question.
Through your worship, municipalities who are the owners of the system who hire the contractor through a bidding process, if they're not happy with the end result, they can convey that to the next contract or to the to the next municipality that contacts us that says, how did this group do? Or were there issues? Were there problems? And, that's how, I guess that's one way of getting the message across to these, to this group. I think the other way is just being upfront and forthright with them and explaining how dissatisfied we are and how unfortunate the circumstances are. And it'll go back and forth. It'll be our fault. It'll be their fault. It'll be the rock. It'll be, this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, we have a 2-year project that's now going into year 3. So there are ways of making that message known, which we're doing tonight as well.
Thank you. My second question is that song, Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. Well, we've had this opportunity. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm kind of thinking we were looking at budgets roughly a week ago, and I'm wondering whether yourself or Mr. Pinn can advise, because we've been having a lot of snow, where does it look like we are going to be for this year, and how is that being impacting us? Do we have some concern in reference to that?
Through your worship, there is no real determination at this point, because it may snow tomorrow or it may snow the day after. We're in good shape right now, but again, it's weather dependent. If it's not snowing, then we're dealing with ice like we were dealing with today. So it's just one of those things we have to wait till the end of the year to find out how it looks.
So what I'm hearing is we do not have an idea by the end of December or beginning of January compared to previous year or 2 years or 3 years as to whether or not our budget, if we're in line for our budget. Is Mr. Pinn, can he answer that? Can anybody help me?
Through your worship, I can pass this on to Mr. Pinn, but I can tell you that at the end of the year, we will have an idea of how much our budget is. But right now we don't, because it's not the end of the year and we don't know how much it's going to snow. So, we do have a very detailed process of what our budget will look like at the end of each year. I can pass this on to Mr. Pinn for clarification.
Mr. Pinn?
Through your worship, because most of the snow activity has been in the last couple of days, the payroll and the timesheets for that won't get processed until the next week. So as far as that, I don't have an update. The last time I looked, we were about 70%, but that was before any of the snowfall hit. So we were on track for being under budget. But like Mr. Brown said, 3 days, 4 days of heavy snow can throw that from being on budget to over budget. So, we were tracking below budget coming into December, but that can be eaten up pretty quickly.
Councillor Horn.
Thank you. Mr. Pinn, since this is your last budget meeting for the town of Parry Sound before you move on to the town of Clarington, congratulations. We did have a budget meeting last Tuesday. I was wondering if you could give a quick overview in terms of the town's finances as you left them. Quickly.
Quickly. Through your worship, as those who don't know now know, the budget meeting last week is on YouTube, so anybody who is interested can take a look and get the detail. The PowerPoint is also on the website as well. As far as the finances are concerned, the reserves, I believe, are about the same as when I came in. However, we have done a lot of infrastructure work in the last 4 years. And we do have policies and procedures in place where we are thinking and looking more into, that 5-10 year future as opposed to 6 months, 8 months down the road. So there are a lot of processes that have been put into place. But we have done a lot infrastructure-wise over the last 4 years, which does impact the debt level and the reserve level. So, but we've, I guess, from a foundation, we're looking more forward than not.
Any further questions? Seeing none, correspondence, Ms. Boggs.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have a letter from Margaret Dunnigan, who's a Parry Sound resident. She questions reopening the dialogue regarding building a swimming pool for residents of Parry Sound and surrounding areas. That was circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the Mayor for follow-up. A letter from Gail Burrows, President of the Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce. It's a letter with a request for funding, along with Mick Dougal, toward lettering on the North End Water Tower. Circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to the Director of Finance for follow-up. We have two AMO watch files, November 30th and December 7th, which are basically municipal industry news. Circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for inclusion on the E-agenda. We have a Phonom media release, Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities. Their headline is that they're pleased that the Ontario government is investing in transportation services. Circulated to Mayor and Council and forwarded to myself for inclusion in the E-agenda. And we had a last-minute letter that I just had from John Jacklin regarding the surplus lands on Salt Dock Road. He doesn't agree with staff's recommendation to council, and he has requested a meeting with council to go over the details. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, next deputations. And I'd just like to remind the deputations here tonight, they have a maximum of 10 minutes each, including questions of clarification from council. And deputations are subject to the same rules of conduct as members of council, and that no one shall speak disrespectfully or use offensive words or insulting expressions against any member of council, staff, or another member of the public. And apparently the microphones are really sensitive now, so if you're at least a foot and a half away from the microphone, apparently that is good. So our first deputation is Roger Alexander, Parry Sound Condo Corporation number 2. And it's with regard to the surplus property near the Salt Dock Road. Welcome. The microphone needs to be yep, big button. Good.
Testing.
Yep.
Thank you, Your Worship, Mayor McGarvey, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the town's recent tender of the property on Salt Dock Road. I'm here today representing the Board of Directors of Parry Sound Condo Corporation number 2 and its 30 owners and residents, all ratepayers in the town of Parry Sound. We have a pretty good delegation back here tonight from the condo corporation, the residents of the condo. I'd say 12 to 15 people are attending the council meeting this evening. This property sits directly between our property, Beacon View Condos, and Georgian Bay to the west. As you may be aware, our condo corp submitted a proposal to purchase the parcel of land offered for sale. Our offer is based on the property's stated utility valuation. Our proposed use for this parcel would have been to retain its natural state in perpetuity as part of the Georgian Bay Biosphere Reserve, thus preserving the land for future generations and the enjoyment of the residents of Beacon View condominiums and the town. We would be pleased to speak to the town as to how the lands could be accessible to the public. We would also like to point out that our condo corporation had approached the town on at least 2 separate occasions, some years ago, maybe a decade ago, to express interest in purchasing the reference properties, and were denied on the basis the town was not interested in selling them. This was basically an informal approach to the town at that time. Our intention at that time, the board discussion, was to partner with the developer to put another building on the properties to expand the Beacon View Condominium Corporation. Our residents do, however, understand that in all likelihood, one of the current developers bidding for the land have offered the town a significantly higher initial price, and more importantly, the opportunity for ongoing tax revenue for the town. And should the town elect to sell the reference property to another party, as per the recommendation we now see, our condo corporation would respectfully request that the town council consider development that will not impact the Georgian Bay views enjoyed by our 30 owners who have resided there for decades. We also understand that if these lands are sold for development purposes, the land must be designated as residential, either low, medium, or high, and that there's a process that must be undertaken to accomplish this. At 2.1 acres, these lands are of a small size compared to adjacent properties and should not be allowed the same sort of density, in our opinion, as this would result in a construction elevation above the grade at the base of Beacon View's existing buildings. We estimate that to be 203 meters. As part of the rezoning, it should also be considered there's only a certain portion of the land that is usable for site location, and that consequently a taller building should not be allowed based on the total property area. A higher value, lower density development could result in a similar assessed value and would provide the same long-term returns to the town. We would also request the Mayor and Council ensure our Beacon View condos meaningful input into any development that may occur in these properties through participation in the planning process. Owners' property values and views can be protected through consideration of the development site selection and the elevation. We would be pleased to work with a successful developer to mitigate the impact on our owners while ensuring the new structure is optimized. Since preparing my remarks, we've seen the recommendations from staff to accept the proposal from Greystone, and we have also had the opportunity to briefly look at Greystone's preliminary proposal. We do have some concerns about the proposed density and elevation of the Phase 1 building and the siting and elevation of the Phase 2 building. It is not clear to us from the proposal exactly what these impacts will be on our residents. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Alexander, while he's here? Seeing none, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is Brenda Ryan, who is representing the Downtown Beautification Committee and Downtown Steering Ad Hoc Committee. Welcome, Brenda.
You? Trevor, what are we going to do without you?
Keep Cal busy.
Well, I didn't want Cal to.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Did you turn your mic on? Sorry. No.
No,
As soon as
the button. There you go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. We'll start over. Mayor McGarvey and councillors, thank you for having me here tonight. As you mentioned, I'm here on behalf of the Beautification Committee, and we've been working hard over the last little while to come up with some recommendations for our downtown to add some beautification. Early on, we established our goal as creating an atmosphere that attracts people, builds pride and connection for the residents and visitors, downtown property owners and business tenants alike. Over the past little while, we've researched a lot on what it takes to create and maintain a vibrant downtown. As well, we've been really conscious when we're visiting other cities and towns what they're doing and what makes those places beautiful. And we've really identified two things for our downtown that we think could have some big impacts. The first one is signage, and I'll go through these points. And the second one is landscaping and creating intimate surroundings and slowing people down. So tonight's presentation is mostly on